All right, today we are doing part one of what will be a two-part series on building a very simple fireplace. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, to make our fireplace, we're going to do this in stages. So these are the first few pieces I've cut. I've got, and this is foam core. My Dollar Tree only had black foam core the other day. I would much rather have had white, but I'm using this because it's what I could get. So I've cut these pieces off camera simply because it's a lot easier. And I've made a diagram for you guys. So here's what I've got. And let me show you the diagram, and there'll be a picture of the diagram on the blog post. So I've got the front of the fireplace. The front of the fireplace is 3 inches by 3 inches, and it has this hole cut out of the front. This is 3/4 of an inch across on each and an inch deep. Like I said, this will be on the blog post. Next, we have 2 sides. They are cut 1 inch by 3 inches. We have a mantle. It's cut 3 3/4 by 1 1/2, and we have 2 pieces for the hearth, and it's cut 4 inches by 2 inches. So we're going to start gluing these together. Now, in the past, when I have glued, if you've watched my channel for very long, you know I usually use sewing pins to reinforce the edges because you can make a really good, strong structure gluing pieces of foam core together if you clamp it or, reinforce the joints. I've had a couple of people tell me they had a lot of trouble finding the small sewing pins. So I decided to try using chunks of toothpick a while back on another project that I did. And it worked really well. And I think I like it better. So we are going to be using that today. Now these 2 pieces, the mantle piece is going to go off to the side. We're going to put these 3 pieces together. What I need to do is run a bead of glue. Whoops, I have glue stuck in the glue bottle. Mainly because I forgot to put the lid on this the other day. So we'll see if we can get through a video without the cat helping today. All right, so I've got that. Now, I'm going to line this up, and I want to have these lined up at the top and bottom and at the edge. Now, this project is going to take us a couple of weeks to do. We're not going to get it all done today because I want to make this in small segments so that my glue is really dry. And before I move on to the next step. Oops. So I'm going to do, and this is one of those projects that's going to be much easier for you because you're not trying to do this on camera. Just ran it down in there and it's holding now. Make sure this is lined up where I want it. Put it down. Now I usually use my thumbnail because my thumbnail is pretty strong, but if you don't have that, you can use like just a flat tool, side of a table knife blade. I've used the end of a craft stick. I'll show you that here on this side. The things to watch out for. Try not to have it go in crooked so that it comes out and shows. It's okay if it shows on the inside, but I don't think the joint is as strong then because you're not going into the foam core as far. Oops, that one I can tell went the wrong way. You do want these to be flush. Double checking that I didn't go crooked. And these are just the 1 by 3 inch pieces and that front. I didn't want to have too many pieces cut at once. That's why we have not cut the firebox yet. So this needs to set and dry, making sure everything is at the angles you want. And now let's go ahead and get some glue on here. And you can make your fireplace. I'm going to make mine very basic, but you could decorate yours in different ways. We've also done a nice stone fireplace on the channel, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that tutorial over in the blog post if you would like a larger, more stone, rustic looking fireplace. I just thought this would be kind of a cute little pretty fireplace to decorate. It's not actually going in my dollhouse. It's going to be just something I can make things to decorate just because I want to. All right, I'm going to put a weight on this, which means I'll put this on here, and then I'll very carefully put something heavy on it to keep it nice and flat. And I'm going to let this glue dry completely before I come back and start adding the next step. All right, so the glue that this was put together with has actually dried overnight because I got kind of busy yesterday. So we are going to now cover this portion of the fireplace before we add the mantle to it. And then we'll cover it when it's attached to this. So what I've done, I've got some medium weight cardstock. This is the exact same type of cardstock that I buy to do the Cricut projects with. It's just cheap white cardstock from Hobby Lobby. I will try to put a picture of the label on the blog post. But I've cut a piece that's 3 inches wide by the 8.5 inch wide width of the cardstock. Sorry, my brain is like not here today. And that will wrap around. I want to make sure, I'm going to put this over a ways because I want to make sure I have plenty of space. And I've got wallpaper gel. You might be able to use Mod Podge, but I think you need something thicker than Mod Podge. This I have on hand because this is what is left from when I did the wallpaper in the beachside bungalow. So I'm going to brush, I'm using just an old brush. It does wash out of the brush pretty well. You could use anything that you would normally put Dollhouse wallpaper on with. I think it's going to be your best bet. And just a thin coat. And then lay this down on here, making sure that you have it lined up top and bottom. And plenty of paper so that it will fold up more than to cover the sides. So I'm going to put a cap on this. I am going to wash my brush. I'm not going to take a chance on it, letting it be covered like I do with paint. If you need to, you can use some kind of a squeegee type thing to do that. And I am going to let this sit until it's fairly dry. When this is dry, I'll come back, we'll fold up the sides, we'll cover the sides of this, and go on to the next steps. All right, this has had time to get set up. It's drying very nicely, so we're going to, I've kind of pre-creased this. All I did was I just did like this and get that nicely bent up. If you're hearing that noise in the background, they're testing the smoke alarms. I was just talking to the nice man in the hallway. So it's going to be weirdly noisy today. So I'm just painting this on. And as you can see from the front, as long as you put a very thin coat on, it doesn't bubble. That's the beauty of these really thick gel pastes. All right. Get the lid back on this right away. By letting this sit for a few seconds while I get that lid on and do those things, it makes that a little more tacky so that it will stick better. Now, and this is from Mod Podge. It's a really handy thing. It's a rubber, I guess. It's soft, kind of semi-soft. It's flexible. But you could also use a craft stick or anything like that. So I am going to let this step dry. And then when this is dry, I'll come back and we'll finish up the sides and probably get the hole in the fireplace ready. So I'll be back when this is ready. All right, that glue's dried enough now that I can go ahead and wrap this around. And I've already tested this side, and this one fit. I didn't put this in the middle, so I'm going to trim it so it will wrap around, so it'll hold nicely, but not be too much And that cut doesn't need to be straight. Get that pre-creased. Then, and this time I'm going to actually do the paper, not the fireplace. So then, we just want to cover up this. And you could probably use a different color cardstock. I think though if I was going to make this colored other than white, I would still use the white cardstock and use paint to color it just like I do with everything else. Now, I'm going to go up almost to the top of the opening. And then I'm going to cut kind of like a letter Y. This would be easier with my other scissors, but I couldn't find them. Almost to the corners. And then I'm pre-folding. Hopefully I'm staying under camera. There we go. I want to get this pasted down. I'm trying to get some along the open edge of that foam core to the cut edge. It's okay if there's extra paste on the inside. No one's ever going to see that. And then fold over, and fold over. And I will probably need to come back and use my little squeegee thing here a couple more times while this is drying, just until it gets really tacky. So I'm going to want this glue to dry pretty much completely before I go to the next step. So when this is dry, I will come back and we will add the mantle and then start covering it. All right, the wallpaper paste has dried enough that I'm comfortable going ahead with the next step. So what I've done off camera, I marked the center here and I marked the center here. That's 2 inches from each edge for this one, and no, it's 1.5 inches from each edge here and 1 7/8 inch from each end there. And what I'm going to do is line this up so that my lines are lined up. Hold that on there as straight as I can, and I'm going to make myself some guidelines. This is going to be covered. Okay. Now, I'm going to make sure I've got glue on here first. So fill this foam core area up with some glue. And most of these toothpicks I'll probably put in off camera just so I can be sure I'm getting them where I want them. We're going to line the back edge up with the back of this. We are going to line up so that we are in the middle. Making sure the back is lined up. And then, because I've got lines to go by, I know that I need to go right next to that and go down, making sure I'm not going out. I get 4 of them in, just so this stays put. If you're going to miss the foam core, be sure you do it on the inside, not the outside. But try and hit the foam core with each piece. And this is where you can do a little bit of straightening, like my fireplace, a little crooked, not enough that I'm worried about it. It's not going to show. All right, let's get a hold of another one. Off camera, I'm going to go back and do some along the front. But I want to make sure that I'm lined up correctly for those. So I am going to use my craft stick to go ahead and get those down. And when this glue dries, I'll come back and we'll cover the mantle. All right, the glue is dried on this. I've got it all centered and exactly where I want it. Then I cut this piece. This is another piece of the same cardstock. And I've made you a little diagram, and will be a photo of this on the blog post. But what I did was I cut a rectangle that was 2 inches this way by 4 3/4, and then I cut a 1/2 inch square out of each of these 2 corners. And what will happen is we're going to put this on here. We're going to line up the back of the fireplace with the back of the mantle with that long straight edge. Get it centered so these 2 cutouts are at this front corner. We're going to, when the first batch of glue dries, we'll bend it down in a specific order and get it set up. So let's go ahead and get the glue on the top of the fireplace and get this glued on. Try not to get any more wallpaper paste or whatever you're using to glue this down. Try not to get any more onto here if you can avoid it. Now, this is going to be a little challenging because when you guys do this at home, you can put your face over it, but I've got a camera right where I want to put my head. I think I've got it lined up. So I am going to make sure this is lined up a little bit. Make sure it's pushed down nice and tight. And I'm going to let this dry for 5 or 10 minutes so it doesn't move around on me. And when it's set up, I'll come back and we'll start folding the edges over. All right, that's had some time to set up, probably less than 5 minutes, I'm guessing. Now I'm going to do the ends first because I want the front to wrap over the ends. Put glue on both ends. I kind of pre-folded it so that it would be easier to get it to go around the corner. And push it in as tight to the ends of the foam core as you can. And once that is done, looks like I have a little more paper on the end of there than I wanted. Where is my scissors? I need to go find some scissors. I'll be right back. All right, I got some scissors with a really fine point on them. And I'm going to get in here. Cut off anything that's hanging past the edge of the foam core as best as I can. There. Now, fold this over and use like a thumbnail or something to push that edge of that paper up there. And you might have to clamp this. If you do, put a craft stick or something to protect both sides. In fact, let me grab some clamps really quickly and go ahead and do that, because it feels like that wants to come off. So to clamp it, put a craft stick there, put a craft stick on this side. That way we're protecting the foam core shape. There we go. And we need this to dry all the way before we go on to our next step. So I'm going to let this dry and then I'll be back. All right, the glue has now dried, or the wallpaper paste has dried, and I'm going to give this a very light coat of white paint. I know, white on white. But I want to disguise the fact that this is cardstock and give it more of a painted wood look, since that's kind of the look I'm after for this fireplace. So I'm just going to just put a very thin coat on. And when this gets dry, we'll put a clear coat on, and then this portion of the fireplace will be done, and we can start working on the hearth and the firebox. So I'll finish painting and I'll be back when it dries. All right, my paint is all dry, so I'm going to put just a light, even coat of satin Mod Podge over all of the places that we have put paper and then painted. Now, obviously, you could paint yours anyway. You could add extra details. I actually saw a white fireplace in a magazine that I thought was so pretty, and it was pretty because it was so simple. It was just very, very plain, and I thought it was just really pretty. It looks so pretty decorated. So I'm going to finish this. I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll talk about the fireplace. All right, the Mod Podge has dried, and I love how this is looking so far. It's going to be a really pretty, simple fireplace. This is as far as we're going this week because I needed to get this far before I could cut the interior for the firebox, and I wanted this to be completely done before we start working on the hearth. So next week we will create a firebox for in here and a hearth and put it all together. So I hope you've enjoyed the project so far. Be sure and hop over to the blog post for photos and more information. If you enjoyed the video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.